and welcome back to the Dean Obeidallah Show. Right now, very happy to have Representative Debbie Dingell back on the show, a Democrat representing Michigan's 6th District, serves on the House Committee on Energy and Commerce and the House Committee on Natural Resources. And she's out there fighting the good fight all the time. And I know that, and it's great to have you on here today to talk about that. How are you, my friend?
Dean, it's great to see you. Last week was just a really tough week. You know, we can't justify political violence anywhere, anytime.
Right.
We have to speak up and speak out. But I just spent a lot of time with a lot of people who are scared, they're worried, they don't know what's happening. And it was a tough week. I'm just going to say that point blank.
I agree with you. And it is, look, Democratic leaders, with no exceptions, denounce the political violence for what it is. No one suggests that this guy is a patriot the same way Donald Trump suggests the January 6 attackers were patriots. We have to live in the real world. I'm not going to, Charlie Kirk, I didn't agree with his views, but he should have definitely not been shot or wounded or injured or attacked. On the right, I'm sure there are many who hate my views. This can't be America that we would allow that to happen. And we have to be united against that. But what are your concerns going forward about potential political violence?
Well, I'm me. So I drive law enforcement nuts, and I'm very grateful to how they work to keep us all safe. And it's a very tough time out there right now. I had an incident when I got in the airport on Thursday, where I had been, because something had happened a little earlier, that they said, they will, if members want it, escort to and from when you're in the airport to the plane. And I just have declined it. I'm not going to be someone that I'm an unstaffed, unfiltered person, because that's how I know what's happening. That's how I knew that Hillary Clinton was going to lose in 2016. It's how I always tell you what's happening from my gut, because I talk to everybody. Right. Well, I got yelled at. A man came up and started yelling at me with the two policemen there. And I said, he said, I'm a conservative. And I said, but that's okay. We can talk to each other and agree to disagree in an agreeable fashion. And he started screaming at me and said, no, we can't. There's no such thing as gun violence. There's only violence. And the officers, who were great, said, keep walking, don't engage. And then the people later told me that I got to start being more careful, that I walk up to people, I'll talk to anybody, but that's who I am.
Right.
And I don't want to change. And I don't want this country to change. We've got to protect the ability for civil discourse in this country. We've got to, how do you protect free speech? I mean, I think that the death of Mr. Kirk was outrageous and so wrong, and that we all have to stand up to it. And I probably didn't agree with many things that he said, but we both agreed you should be able to talk to anybody. We must protect free speech in this country. And I don't think he would want his death to impact the ability for people to have free speech.
It's true. And, earlier in my show, I was talking about we're watching some on the right. I don't mean MAG influencers. I mean Marco Rubio saying, we'll take visas away if you say something about Charlie Kirk they don't like, to Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, calling for a pilot to be fired for saying he's something he didn't like. Marsha Blackburn calling for a teacher to be fired at a college in Tennessee, and he was, and she took a victory lap. Randy Fine, who's vile member of Congress, same thing today. We're seeing it's not MAG influencers, people in power calling for free speech to be silenced, ironically, to defend someone who was a big advocate of free speech. The only thing I probably agree with Charlie Kirk on is the idea of robust discussion and having debates, and the irony, and that concerns me, that the right uses the government, now Donald Trump, to try to silence people he doesn't agree with.
It is very concerning. And I have spent my whole life, everybody says, well, what are you going to do to stop this? I've spent my whole life believing in civil discourse and trying to bring people together that don't agree with each other. And look, I'm going to tell you, social media is out of control. What we saw on social media last week, I want to know where the Facebooks and the Googles and the billionaires who are controlling this social media, who have said that they're going to make sure that what's being said on social media is going to be okay. There are people encouraging people to kill each other. We know that Russia and China are putting money into bots, into people to encourage us to be divided, to pit us against each other. That is wrong. And how do we also control what's happening there? Not control isn't the right word, guardrails. We need guardrails. But it's very scary to me. And I'm going to say this again. We need relationships. Young people, all they do is use technology. They don't talk to each other. They don't develop relationships. This is scary. It is going to be the downfall of democracy if we don't encourage people to talk to each other, respect each other, develop relationships, work together. The strength of democracy is community.
Yeah, and the online stuff, there's something deeply concerning that's beneath the surface that's going on right now in our society with young white men, and we see it. And it's not about their race. It's about there's something lost in this younger generation now. And we see just last Wednesday, it wasn't just the shooting of Charlie Kirk. There was a shooting in a Colorado school. A 16-year-old went to school, and the police even said he was radicalized by extremists online, and now the experts see it, and it's neo-Nazi stuff and white supremacist stuff. And you have this younger generation that I don't know what's happened in their lives where it's the idea of using violence as a way to be heard or to define who they are is maybe I'm old fashioned. I didn't see that growing up, and I'm deeply concerned about the future of a younger generation now.
So, I do want to say this to you, Dean. I spent a lot of time on campus when I got home, even before I got home last week, because the kids at Michigan particularly were very scared. And they were just scared. They're worried about their own safety.
Sure.
I talked to student government members. President of student government called me on Thursday and said, that's all I'm hearing. People are concerned what's going to keep somebody from going onto the DAG with an assault weapon and shooting us all. And I was with some of these young people and some people that are seasoned. And it was one of the best conversations I've ever had, because they did look at these kids and said, we survived it. Now, it was the 60s, and they reminded them of what they saw in the 60s, and the shooting of a president, the shooting of the attorney general, the president's brother, Martin Luther King. And those times were scary. Now, what they didn't have then was social media, which is fanning flyers and encouraging people to do more. But we did survive that. So it's up to all of us, each and every one of us. I don't care where you're from, what your perspective is, whether you're young or old, black or white, any other background. We all got to work together to dial down the rhetoric, dial it down, and help people talk to each other, become involved, be nice to each other, have a block party. I was at Rotary. Rotary really felt so good to get home to Rotary on Thursday night last week, where it's just probably most of the people in Rotary are Republicans, but they
Right.
care about each other and they do volunteer work. These are the kinds of things we got to get all of us involved, because they are healing and they are the strengths of our future.
Shadow Representative Debbie Dingell. I agree. My fear, I have to be honest, is Donald Trump already saying leftist ideology, and that's the new thing that they're saying all over on the right, that leftist ideology, like it's somehow they're going to criminalize being a Democrat or criminalize being a liberal. And I really have grave concerns, because we potentially have the worst person we could have in the White House. He's not a uniter, he's a divider, and he enjoys that. So, I mean, are you concerned that he's going to fan the flames over the next few weeks?
Look, we got to do everything we can to try to put water on those flames. I know many Republicans on the other side. Look, I'm hearing it. I'm seeing it. What I read on social media should scare all of us. I have never been someone who thinks about what she's going to do. I just walk out my door in the morning and I go as many places as I can, from farmers markets to union halls to vets and fairs and festivals. I've had to take a deep breath. I have to think about it right now. But I don't, what's going to happen to our democracy if we don't go places because people are afraid?
Right.
What's going to happen to our democracy if we can't have a healthy exchange of ideas? It's so, am I thinking about it? Yes. I'm trying desperately to not let it change my behavior and what I do. And we've all got to work together. We all have a responsibility to dial down. There's going to be a memorial service today that Speaker Johnson is leading for the members. He wants it to be bipartisan. I'm going to attend them. There was actually a vigil on campus at Michigan last night for him. And I said, well, should I go? And everybody thought, okay, well, maybe you shouldn't do that one, but I will go today. I did not, what happened on the House floor last week was equally, both sides contributed to the lack of, I don't even know what to call it, is people were screaming at each other. I didn't sleep. I was so upset by what I witnessed. I did not sleep. It did not give me hope, and I have to have hope, and we all have to work at not letting something like that happen again. And we all of us, every one of us has a moral responsibility for the future of our country to help dial it down and not let people go after people because of viewpoints.
That's very well put. And I think probably some of what happened on the House floor, emotions were running extremely high. It was a jarring day for everyone. It was disconcerting to a way where people acted an extreme part of their character. And you hope that as time passes, we can do exactly what you're saying and be civil with each other. We can disagree. It's America. I love disagreeing with people in a civil discussion. This is what America, we should all agree. We're not the Soviet Union in the 1970s. Like, we should disagree. We should have it protect in a way that's robust. So I want to shift gears to something that Democrats and Republicans disagree on. What it has to do, it's going to have a big impact on people's lives. It's the ACA subsidies. Unless there's an extension of the subsidies, millions, the experts say, are going to lose insurance beginning in January because they just can't afford it. Is there any hope Republicans will take a step and agree with Democrats to extend these subsidies?
Well, there are a lot of discussions. I've been in rooms where there've been a lot of discussions. And I think what people don't realize, we're already, because of what has happened so far with the big, I'm trying to behave right now. So I'll just call it the big bill and not use some of the adjectives I do sometimes.
Right.
But like in Michigan, Blue Cross Blue Shield has asked for an 18% increase, but in other states, it's 23%, it's 26%. And that is before the Affordable Care Tax credits expire. They're allowed to expire. Almost every person who uses the Affordable Care Act that uses those tax credits will experience a 75% increase in their premium. That's scary, and that is real. So we need to do something, because I'm one of those people that thinks if you live in this country and you're sick, you should be able to go to the doctor when you need to go to the doctor and afford the medicine that you need. So there are some Republicans are talking about the need to do so. Mike Johnson's got a divided, intense, passionate caucus on this, but we cannot let more. We already are going to have millions of Americans lose health care because of what's been passed so far. If we don't do something on extending this tax credit, too many Americans are not going to have health care in this country. Too many already aren't going to have it.
I know.
Even more, it's too many Americans aren't going to have health care. And by the way, that impacts all of us. It's not just those that are less fortunate or have hospitals are going to close. We already know rural hospitals are going to close because of the legislation that we passed previously. More hospitals are going to close. And people focus on the rural hospitals, but Children's Hospital in downtown Detroit, 75% of their patients use Medicaid. I mean, we're going to see hospitals close. The day after we passed the big blank bill, I got a call that my mother was being rushed to the hospital by ambulance, and I immediately flew home. And I spent the weekend in the hospital with her in the ER. She needed to be admitted, but she and many others were sitting there waiting for a bed. And all I could think of that weekend was the hospitals were already, the healthcare system's already broken, and we just made it worse.
Well, the Republicans made it worse, and they don't care. And they want to do a tax cut for their wealthy donor class. And the result is people that need help, the working class and the working poor, are going to struggle and suffer. It's going to affect all of us. We see a lot now that the budget's going to run out at the end of this month, and there might be a stopgap measure. What frustrates me with the media is that at some point they're like, why don't Democrats join with Republicans and fix this? Like somehow it's your obligation. Republicans control the House and the Senate and the White House. Well, shouldn't it be framed as, why can't you get your house together and pass a budget? Because I can assure you it'll be Democrats. Why aren't you voting for it? You'll go on cable news and they'll ask you, why aren't you supporting some deal? when they can do it all and they won't do it.
I'm going to be very, very clear. The president is President Trump. A Republican controls the White House and the executive branch. Republicans control the House and Republicans control the Senate. And if there is a government shutdown, it's because Republicans let it happen. They have a majority in every branch.
I agree. But the media won't report that. You're going to have to all stay on message because corporate media lets me down every day and more and more. I want to talk about Michigan because I'm so curious living in New York City, I live in a bubble. I can tell you what's happening in my neighborhood, around 10 blocks. That's about it. And people call in, but you're out there in the heartland. First of all, how is the economy in Michigan going right now?
People are scared.
Mhm.
There are businesses that are laying off. Some smaller businesses have closed for different reasons, but prices are going up, rents are going up, groceries are up. People can't afford to buy a house or to rent a house. So they're scared. So the economy isn't going well. Tariffs are increasing the costs, which is also impacting the dealers. We're just having auto dealers having very blunt conversations. You know, another problem that we have in this country is that CEOs are afraid to say anything. Everybody's afraid to say anything because they know if they do talk about it, if they do say what's happening, they could have a target on their back faster than the speed of light. And I'll tell you, being in that tunnel I call it the tunnel of hate, having been there in an earlier term of President Trump's. So, but people are hurting. People are scared. You know, I go to the Kroger every Sunday morning, return my bottles. I'm still a good person about that. But people know I'm going to be there and they come up and talk to me and they're scared and they're hurting.
So, and you are seeing prices go up. What about the United Auto Workers? I know we've talked about the union a great deal. Any feedback from them about what's going on right now with tariffs and their concerns as union households?
Look, I talked to I was at Region 1A on Friday, was with a couple locals this weekend. People are feeling the hurt. They're worried about their jobs. Everybody, I'm going to tell you one of the things that I hear day in and day out. People want to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that safety goes from they want to be safe on the street, they want to be safe in their job, and they want to be safe in being able to put food on the table for their family. That's one of the words that I tell everybody that I hear about every day. The UAW wants a level playing field. China's trying to destroy our auto market. You know, and I've always said tariffs are a tool in a toolbox. They can be used to make sure you have a level playing field. But the way that tariffs are being done now, it's absolutely chaotic. And people are they're worried and they're scared. Those are the two words that I would use, what I hear the most when I'm out and about. I love my farmers markets. And those are my vendors that are real farmers. They're like, they can't get people to help pick their products. Their costs are going up every which way to Sunday on everything that's happening. The farm bill hasn't been renewed. They're like, do something. We need a farm bill. We need workers. They're scared. So this is what I'm hearing when I'm home, when I'm out talking to people.
Yeah, I saw just recent articles over the weekend about farmers really being upset about various things and finding people to work in the fields for the harvesting and stuff. They're greatly concerned, and we don't hear any kind of solutions being offered by the right. Any idea of a farm bill? What's going to happen?
I keep asking because they are asking me, and
Sure.
people are saying even a narrow farm bill. I don't know. I mean, Dean, I'm not on that committee. Republicans don't clue me in. But, there's a woman who I've gotten to know over the years. I'm sure she was a Republican when I first got to know her, but her husband died a couple of years ago. And she's just been in tears with me because she has produce on her farm and nobody to pick it. And it's rotting. And I mean, she's not, she lost her husband and she's really struggling. I talked to all my farmers who, they're hurting and they want this administration to do something. I'll support a farm bill if we get one done that helps them, but for some reason we don't seem to be able to get it done.
In a nonpartisan way, if that's even possible. I mean, have the Republicans, since Trump got in, done anything that's delivered for the people, the working class people of your district and of your state? And when you speak to them?
I gotta be careful because some people do feel like they have, though I think there's a higher, I mean, look, the border, I mean, people want to feel safe and the
Mhm.
border has been an issue, though I now think people are beginning to understand that, I mean, and they're seeing people that are, like, I've had several people that have lived in our community for 25 years. They're DACA students. The kids go to school with. That has people upset because they're suddenly realizing these aren't dangerous people
Right.
that are being removed. It's their neighbor. And, I have small business owners, 7-Eleven owners screaming at me, we can't find anybody to work here. And I'm like, hey, I'm not the person causing the problem. But I hear them and I don't totally blow them off because I know that they're scared. But there are people who think that the president is coming in and keeping them, doing something about immigration and they look, I never dismiss those that think that Donald Trump is doing a great job and that's why they elected him. So I talk to them, they live in my district, and I try to talk to everybody.
And you've said scared many times in our conversation, what you're hearing. Is there any anger from voters towards Donald Trump? I don't mean
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe not the mega voters, but I'll tell you something. There is real anger on the Democratic side that Democrats aren't fighting enough. You need to do more. What are you going to do to protect us? What are you going to do to protect our democracy? What are we going to do if he totally ignores the courts? What are I'm one of those rare creatures that actually still does town halls, and I did a lot of them in August. And people stand up. They're frustrated. They're like, "What are you doing?" So, and I think I'm lucky because I do go out there. People get mad, but I
right.
think they do see me, but they're mad. They're mad at our leadership. They do not want to see us cave on the budget. I'll tell you that point blank.
Oh, I can tell you from listeners who call my show, but it's great that you go out there and speak to people. And I think the anger, though, comes from a sense of being fearful and scared about where we're going
Gary.
for Donald Trump. And then it manifests as anger because, like, you got to fight harder because we're concerned and we don't have that much power. We're not in Congress. You are. So that's where it's not anger to tear down the Democratic Party. It's anger because of fear and that we need the people to fight. And so, look, I appreciate.
Actually, Dean, I want to tell you, there is anger at the Democratic Party. There are people that have never been involved or engaged in party politics before, and they come to town halls. I didn't do any former town halls this last week, but boy, I still heard it. Why are Democrats not doing more? You're delivering a terrible message. You're not connecting with people. They are angry and they are mad at the Democratic Party, and they don't know that we have a strategy. I'll be that blunt.
No, I saw, and again, you're the person that warned people in 2016 Hillary wasn't connecting with voters, and I think you probably warned in 2024. I think you
I
told
did.
Michigan go either
I was
way.
unpopular again. They
Right,
all
you
wanted
told
to
me it can
kill
go
me.
either way. So before we wrap up, what's a message that can resonate with the people? I know it's only your area, but what do they want to hear? What would
But we
resonate?
need to understand how they feel,
Mhm.
that they are worried about their jobs, that they want to have a strong economy. And we need to show them we can deliver. They deserve better and we can deliver. And we've got to show them how we're going to deliver.
All right, Representative. Well, it's always great chatting with you. I'd love to have you on more often. I know you're very busy. It's always great chatting with you.
I'm glad to do you. I was trying to call you. So we watch
Well,
each other and get inspired. So we'll work it.
all right, great. Thanks so much, Representative. Have a great day. Keep fighting.